Alright, what we doing? It's TSQ Network, the Smoking Quote Podcast Talk Radio Show with your boy C.H.A.R.M. Y'all already know how to spell it. Cash, honestly, ain't real money, man. You already know that's an acronym that stands for value. How y'all feeling, man? I appreciate any and everybody that tunes in with me, man, and see what we got going. Y'all already know this platform to get informed. All I do is generate thought, y'all. You know what I'm saying? I like to have dialogue about sometimes simple subject matter. Sometimes it get a little complex. But you know already, man, it's about joining forces with like-minded individuals. Iron sharpen iron, people. So it ain't about who the smartest in the room. Them the rooms I'm scared of, to be honest. Like, if you put me in a room where I'm the smartest person in the room, I get a little paranoid. I learned that from one of my mentors, man. You know, you want to be able to get in rooms where you had to learn how to shut the fuck up so you can learn something. So already, man, if you tune in and listen long enough, you'll be able to really pick up what I'm putting down out here, because it's about thinking, man. It's about thinking for yourself. And you gotta know, with so many distractions, man, since we were born, they gave us cartoons, they gave us movies, we got radio, we got sports, we have, school, church. And all the church people, don't beat me up, but you just have things that entertains you, educate you, and you have to determine on if it's distracting you or ascending you. Because you want to be able to ascend. I teach my kids, basically to choose education over entertainment, to be excellent. I tell them about the 3 E's. You can be excellent, and then you got entertainment, and then you got education. You want to be able to choose education over entertainment. Because information is the new money, people. It's about data, you know what I'm saying? But just like money, all money ain't good money, so all information ain't good information. But I want to talk about, and again, none of my shows are really programmed. I don't have a itinerary in front of me on what I want to talk about. But what I want to do is, let's talk about civics a little bit. And I think it's in the realm of civics. What you call jurisprudence. Jurisprudence is, understanding law, contract law, things of that nature like that, man. And one thing that we facing here in this country, from hood to hood, bro, is campaigns of us, not only giving our long lives and our RIPs to all the, the loved ones that we lost, but we also dealing with massive incarceration. And this is where, you have a system that's basically, based off of slavery, y'all. You dig what I'm saying? And, me, if you know anything about C.H.A.R.M, I do have an urban hip-hop background, so, the hip-hop scene is somewhere that I got my feet wet in a bit. And, they say, just MCs, rappers, especially the hip-hop genre, it became a dangerous job. So a lot of people got, a lot of people were killed and a lot of people was locked up. Did my tape, man. Sometimes I try to give little introductions and stuff like that, but I don't really have it. Sometimes I just like to get straight to the point and cut through the red tape. But, massive incarceration is something that's been going on for a long time, but something that's actually going on now where, you got a lot of people locked up, bro. And for non-violent crimes, I want to touch on that. The non-violent crimes that people are locked up for is really kind of crazy, because the population of people that's locked up, they locked up for victimless crimes and non-violent crimes, right? So therefore, the education is very important, because the way we look at the judicial system, the way we look at the political bodies and body politics, the way we look at the court systems and all that stuff is totally motherfucking wrong. Uh, and C.H.A.R.M, I already cashed on this ain't real money, but one thing I like to talk about is the truth, because the truth ain't popular. So let's talk about the truth. The truth is, every judicial system is supposed to be governed, and basically, when I say governed, that means that's who the boss of it is. That's who controls it, right? The judicial system is supposed to be controlled by what? The Constitution, right? So, I know it's a lot of propaganda out there about sovereign citizens and all that shit. First of all, don't ever call me no sovereign citizen. I'm not no sovereign citizen. I understand what sovereignty is, and everybody need to understand what sovereignty is. If you don't, that's some homework. Go look into and research what being a sovereign is about, what sovereignty is. But when you call somebody a sovereign citizen, that's kind of like, as they'll say, an oxymoron. You know what I'm saying? Like, a judicial system that's basically bound or governed by the Constitution. That means the Constitution is all the rules and regulations. That's the parameters that make sure that people don't abuse their power. Because you got people that's really, it's only one. Like Tupac said, it's only one judge, which is God. So a man can't judge you. No one can judge me but God. Now, do it feel like that in the courtroom? You know what I'm saying? When the court system is passing out them football numbers, and niggas, excuse my French, y'all know C.H.A.R.M cuss. Y'all know I got a piece of that ghetto in me, but I like to talk how I want to talk. This is my platform. Hey man, even kids, like if you saying, children may be listening, hey man, these kids hear cuss words. They cuss when you ain't around. So we not finna play that shit. We not finna play that. On my platform, if I want to cuss, if it gets, what I'm saying, a space where I need a clean version, then we'll do that. But let's get back to this judicial system. When they giving niggas football numbers and people are getting locked up, and there's a system, right? And this system is very systematic. It works off a certain way. Now, it's a certain way it works, and then it's a certain way that it don't work. Now, without all the propaganda and sovereign citizenship shit and all that you're talking about, people first of all have to understand who they are. You have to understand who you are, because then you'll know what apply to you. If there's some shit out here that don't apply to you, then it don't apply to you. You ain't got nothing to do with it. You ain't got a dog in the fight, as they say, right? So when we're dealing with these judicial systems, when you understand the history of the government, the court systems, all of that stuff, like the whole delegation of authority that comes behind it, you know what I'm saying? First of all, y'all, the power is in the people. What that mean? That mean the people actually hold the power. All of these public officials and politicians from every branch of government that you can name, from the president on down to your sheriff in your county, they all are under an oath, right? So when you understand that they took an oath of office to become who they say they are. Let's go for judges, all of them. All of them are what you call fiduciary trustees, all right? That means they have custodian ship and rights, or basically they do everything on behalf of the people. So they supposed to be there to uphold the Constitution, right? And then you have the United States Constitution, right? And then you also have state constitutions. So, for people that don't understand this, a constitution is put together by constitutors. And it basically just put together rules and guidelines and stuff just to keep everything in harmony. So you got to know that at the end of the day, if the state of Tennessee, the state of Georgia, the state of Florida all have a constitution, that constitution supposed to be a baby. The state constitutions are like babies to the United States Constitution, because the state constitution has got to be in compliance with the Constitution of the United States. Okay? So what that means is if the state go out and write their own constitution and bylaws for the state, what they call state law, right? So when you hear about these state laws and codes and ordinances and all those things, statutes of law, they're supposed to be in compliance with the United States Constitution. Now, what we're dealing with is, and I'm gonna plug it back into this massive incarceration thing in a moment, but I got to give you some background on understanding how things and why things are and what people can do about it, and how the power is actually in the hands of the people anyway. It always has been, it always will be. These laws, these state laws that are being enforced by your local PD, the police department, you got different branches. You got the marshal, you got the sheriff, you got the police, and then you got different branches inside of the whole Department of Justice type of thing, right? You got the feds, FBI, you got the CIA, you have, it goes on and on. It's a lot of alphabet boys to name, right? But all of them supposed to have a different duty, and they all do something. And then you have Eternal Affairs, right? Attorney General and people like that supposed to get on the ass of the people that's within the judicial system or within the justice system, period, in case they step out of line. Somebody got to come check them. So you got to have somebody that's doing the checking, and then you have somebody that check the person that's doing the checking too. Their structure. And our ancestors came up with this whole system, which is a perfected system, y'all. It's perfect. But the people, the players that's in position, they kind of violate not only their oath of offices, but they abuse the processes, they abuse the authority, they abuse everything. And in return to that, it makes it a corrupted system. When at first, this system is really intended for the outlaws, for people who are breaking the law. Now let's talk about law. Like, how do you break the law? Most people think that you break the law by doing certain things. Now this is where the line is crossed at, because there's elements that gotta exist before you could consider somebody breaking the law. So it go like this, like basically these are the elements, right? You have to breach a contract, damage somebody's property, or injure a party is what they'll call an injured party. So therefore, somebody has to be hurt, or somebody's property has to be damaged, or there must be some type of breach of contract, because that's a crime. Like if you come up with an agreement with two people, or two or more people come together and they make an agreement, right? And they come up on the agreement and say they gonna do this, blah, 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 blah. Inside that contract or that agreement, there is a performance that's expected from both parties, right? And once you sign this contract, you saying that you obligating yourself to do this. Now, if you don't do that, you breach the contract, right? And that can cause all type of issues. Like when there's a frustration of contract, a frustration of purpose in the contract, then that causes other events that ain't had no business happening in the first place. But if everybody would have did what they said they were gonna goddamn do, then everything would have been straight, right? So that's why you make contract. My pops used to always teach me and my brother that basically in business, if people don't want to put it on paper, if they don't want to make a contract out of it or make it an agreement, then they bullshit, right? Because if you mean what you say, write it down. Because in law, they say that if it didn't happen, that if it wasn't written down, that it didn't happen. Let that marinate for you. It didn't happen if it wasn't written down. All right. So when an officer, let's say for example, a police officer comes to a scene, an issue happens, or an accident, or a burglary, anytime 911 is called in to dispatch, the officer come out to the scene no matter what the issue is. He's supposed to be trained enough to determine on if it's a civil or criminal offense that's occurred. And when it does happen, he has to write a police report, right? And he has to write an affidavit basically saying that the facts of everything is written down. Now, after he write that, he got to get notarized by a notary. And y'all know I love talking about notaries. I'm a big advocate of notarial law, being a notary, and understanding all that. Because I know that's the real important player in the game right there, the notary. But this affidavit that the police write becomes law. It creates a record. So the police is basing his merits off of state law because he got a contract with the state. He worked for the state, right? Just like the police can come work for you. While y'all be, while we have this, especially in the hood, we have this little natural hate for cops, right? Hate for police, because we supposed to be we the robbers and they the cops. We always playing cops and robbers. And you don't like the police because the police is pushing an issue, enforcing so-called state law. But let me tell you the difference between the police and a law enforcer. Law enforcement is supposed to be enforcing law. And let me tell you something about statutes of law or state law or codes or ordinances. Those are not laws. Now, if I can get you to agree to this shit, right? If you agree to a state law or a code or ordinance, then that becomes a contract. And if you breach it, then that's a breach of contract. You commit a crime. Y'all get that? So therefore, how do you enter into a contract with the state? If you don't know. Because you can contract with a police officer. You could take you, let's say, because I used to throw parties and we would have venues, right? Different clubs, or I would sometimes use the building that I was asset managing at the time, and we would have parties. And we would get police officers from the county. They was off-duty cops, but we would pay them to come be security. Now, what they'll do is they'll come to the place and they be security. Of course, if people see the presence of the police, they'll tend not to really act out too much. They ain't gonna break the laws and shit like that. So you can literally contract with a police officer, even though he's contracted with the state, right? But under that contract he got with the state gives him the authority to do certain things. He got a license to kill. So the difference between law enforcement and a police is policy. Most people don't know that the police is not enforcing law, y'all. All right? So for all the campaigns out there, free. I got so many people that I could, start a campaign for free. And it's a lot of people that we got in the feds or just in what they call the chain gang, right? Or they down in prison doing hard time or doing years of their lives behind bars, in jail or in prison. Jail and prison is two different things too. Now, a lot of people are locked up off victimless crimes and non-violent crimes, right? If you got a person that was caught up in, it could be conspiracy, RICOs, different stuff like this, big drug busts and stuff like that. Would that be considered a victimless crime? Would that be considered a non-violent crime? It would be, right? Now, what makes it possible for a person to be arrested, get locked up, get sentenced and convicted or indicted, right, off of having a controlled substance or having something that's just, here that is supposed to be illegal. It's policy. Polices are policy enforcers. That's what policy stand for. That's what police stand for. Police is policy enforcer. Okay? And a lot of people didn't know that your police officer, you might have police officers that don't know this, y'all. You feel me? They know that they the police and they supposed to be out in the communities helping reduce crime. But a lot of times, from a administrative perspective, from a lawful perspective, not a legal perspective, because you got to know this too. And I hope y'all picking up what I'm putting down. There's a difference between law enforcement and police. There's a difference between legal, illegal, and lawful and unlawful. There's a difference between public and private. There's a difference between the state constitution and the United States Constitution. And it goes on and on and on. It's always a yin and a yang for some. But it goes on and on and on. But as I continue, I'm going to show you how I'm going to tie it back into massive incarceration, like why we have a lot of our people locked up. And, what are we supposed to do to get them out? The police officer writes an affidavit about an issue that happened or an event that occurred, and he's finding merits based off of the state law and codes and ordinances that he's been trained to enforce. There's really not laws, they're really statutes of law. What makes the law apply to the individual, the person, or the United States citizen is just that, contract. How do you contract with the state? You have several things that the government has issued. Matter of fact, I want y'all to check out this clip. Listen to this. Take your notes. Check this out.
And one of the problems is the misconception of what a driver's license is and what it's used for. The fraud of a driver's license is not in your interest. When they gave you that driver's license, it was to incorporate you as a corporate person, was not an instrument for identification. Is everyone aware of that? You aware of that? Everyone aware of that? What we have to do as free Moors is begin a process and a consciousness amongst the people to neutralize that instrument. Some of us use it now because of whatever purposes, to transport, etc., but understand that it's a commercial instrument. It is not your identification, your pedigree, bloodline, anything like that. And you'll notice that all driver's license have it, the nomen written in all capital letters, which you all know, which indicates a corporation, an artificial person, an instrument, all right? Now, that instrument comes under excise tax. An excise tax is a system that is set up for corporate activity and for taxing corporations in the capacity of having a privilege or benefit of operating in a corporate capacity, i.e. dealing with mercantile instruments or products of merchandise, sales, etc., and the movement of those things. Now, one thing that you must recognize, and I know you do recognize, are you that? Is anyone a movable instrument? Did somebody manufacture you? Are you a living, breathing being, thinking being?
Now, I'm gonna stop it right there because I could keep going, right? And by the way, if you don't know that voice, because I don't own any rights to any of that content, that's one of my great mentors who actually started me out in the game. That is Tariq Bey. Y'all can look him up. Follow any of his videos, man. I tell you that much. Follow any of his videos because he will be able to actually give you a lot of civics and ancient history behind the whole different condition that we in today. But I stopped it right there because he asked the question, are you that? Are you a corporate entity? Are you a corporate fiction? Did someone manufacture you like one of these corporations? The only thing manufactured me was the Most High Creator, the Almighty, the Creator. Because, we was created. So a person manufactured, not a person, but the great divine, designed us and created us. So if you're not a corporate entity, then that means these state policies, these state laws and statutes, the laws and policies that the police, the policy enforcers are pushing against you, right? So therefore, then you got to go to court, and the court gon' basically adjudicate against you based off of that crime, right? Based off of that crime. Now let's talk about, and I hope y'all picking up what I'm putting down out there, but check it out. Let's say we went over the elements of a crime. It got to be a breach of contract, somebody got to be hurt, or property got to be damaged. That's the only way you can commit a crime. If you haven't done any of those things, then you cannot be accused of committing a crime. Now, tying it back into the massive incarceration, everybody locked up, and it's a victimless crime or a non-violent crime, how do people get convicted of these so-called charges? How do we have loved ones, family and friends locked up in prison for a so-called crime and it's victimless or it's non-violent? Now, don't get me wrong. Now, we supposed to have rules and regulations to keep our community safe. If you out here raping, hurting people, killing people, you know what I'm saying? You robbing, you're stealing, you're a thief. You know what I'm saying? Then those type of things, this judicial system, there has to be some type of mechanism in place to take care of that type of stuff in our communities, in our hood, and in society, period, in the world. But what's wicked is how you arrested and doing time for these type of things when you saying you ain't hurt nobody. So there must be a breach of contract somewhere. So I played that clip because it's showing how the driver license, right? State issued instruments such as a state ID, a driver license, a birth certificate, a social security card, all of these things are what actually incorporates you. Turns you into a corporation overnight, right? And how do we come back against that is learning literature, learning contract law. Because if you're going to be held and accused for breaching a contract and then thrown in jail, don't you need to know the rules to the game? You need to know the rules to contracts, right? Now, I done kind of touched on a few things, right? So y'all gonna have to listen back and play it back, take your notes and put the pieces together. Because like I say, this is me freestyling, talking to you, having a conversation, generating thought. But if it's you versus a corporation and you not a corporation, then you gotta first even out the match. See, in business and anything, if you playing sports, you kind of the opponents gotta match each other in some type of sense. That's just like weight classes in boxing. You don't let no heavyweight dude get in the ring with a featherweight dude or a lightweight boxer and let them fight. Even if you think one can beat the other and it ain't determined off of size, still, the rules of the game is you got featherweight, lightweight, middleweight, heavyweight, blah, blah, blah. So it's the same thing in business. Same thing if it's you versus the court or if it's you versus the state, right? It got to be in what they'll call a jurisdiction or a venue to where there's no disadvantages, right? And everybody will know what they looking into. So there's a process that everything got to go through. everything need to match up. It got to be corporation versus corporation. It got to be individual or person versus person. First of all, you not a person, but it got to be law firm versus law firm, and on down the line. So, when you're dealing with disputes amongst people or amongst corporations, like everybody don't always keep the harmony amongst each other. Sometimes you have a disagreement, sometimes you have a dispute. Then you have to have what? A neutral person, like a non-interested third party to come in and give and find some type of measure to help come to a settlement between the two disputes of these individuals, because you don't want to be in a space to where it's a disadvantage to where you outnumbered or somebody gonna be biased. You know what I'm saying? So when people get charged, right, and it says, I'm just go ahead and put it out there, you know, because I'm thinking before I talk and say this, because I want y'all to get it. But let's put it like this: if it say you versus the state, let's say you got a docket, or you got a subpoena, or you got a court date, you got to answer to a traffic ticket, right? And it say you versus the state of blah blah blah. Now, when it comes to that, it says you versus them. Now, what happens is you got the Constitution, right? They're supposed to govern over all of these type of issues to where, you know, these disputes and matters have to be addressed so we can come to a settlement, so justice can prevail, right? So I'm gonna just say this: if it say you versus state, then the state can't have the court to see this matter, because they're gonna be biased. You gotta think, if I go to court and it say me versus state, and then I got the damn judge works for the state, the prosecutor works for the state, the attorney works for the state, the clerk works for the state, the police officers who pulled you over work for the state. You outnumbered. So therefore the Constitution say that the jurisdiction, meaning the venue, the people who can oversee this case or help adjudicate in this case, can't have jurisdiction if they're a party in the cause. So that means, shit, if it's a state of Georgia versus you, then the state of Georgia can't have the court, can't have the jurisdiction. It must automatically go to the Supreme Court. Not the state superior court, but the Supreme Court, right? Why? Because one, a true bill got to be presented. That presentation has to go down. There has to be an indictment by a grand jury. This ain't because I say so or because you say so. This is something that many years ago, our ancestors and groups of scholars and people who were really experts just in civilization period came together, and they came up with some rules that could last for eons, for centuries. So these laws won't have to be changed. They will stand as tried and true until against the test of time. Right? That means equity, which means fairness, had to be implemented within these laws. It had to be fair for everybody. So therefore, off the gate, and I can't give legal advice, right? You already got to put that wave out there. I can't give legal advice. I can't give financial advice, but I just want you to think about this. And you have to go and read some of these documentations, y'all. You got to read. They already told you a long time ago they were going to hide anything from anybody. They were going to put it in a book. They were going to put it in literature. They was going to put it behind the screen of white paper, black ink, which is documentation, right? So the Constitution, all right, let's put it like this. You got a mother, which is the Constitution of the United States. Then up under that, you got a whole bunch of state constitutions, right, under the umbrella. Now, the police and everybody, all the political parties or all of the what do you call them, public officials, they all pushing the state constitution. Now, they all took an oath and promised that the state constitution would be in compliance with the mother constitution, which is the United States Constitution. Then guess who's over the United States Constitution, y'all? You know, because that mama got a mama too. And it keep going, just like your family. Your mother got a mother, their mother got a mother, right? Until you get all the way to the beginning if you can. But the treaties. A lot of people don't speak about the treaties, y'all. All right, the damn treaties basically is the supreme laws of the land. So from the treaties came the Constitution, and then the Constitution allowed these municipalities, these other governments, these other really corporations out of the District of Columbia to go, you know, it's crazy once you understand the whole story and know the history, but these municipalities and everything, these courts that's calling you into court for a crime or for a traffic ticket or whatever it is, right, is actually under oath. They under a rulership of rules and regulations that they got to stay in compliance with. So off the gate, when you see it say you versus state, you supposed to know out the gate that the goddamn state can't have the jurisdiction. The state can't be saying that they got a charge against me or an allegation against me or accusing me for a crime, and then they still have me in their courts too. I'm gonna be outnumbered. Who you think gonna win? Who you think gonna win if everybody with the state, they all on one side, and then it's just little old me by myself? And then the attorney, let me tell you something about an attorney. Attorney means to turn words. Okay? So, I need to get a charge over here. Let's get this together, y'all. Give me one moment, y'all.
I let niggas hold something they ain't repay me. I did. I went to beef with some of my homies over paper. I had to stay out the way to do us both a favor. I did. That's some real shit. Yeah, I did. Told these niggas stop playing. Yeah, I did. Told these hoes stop playing. I did.
All right, y'all. I'm sorry about that. But basically, what I was saying was, you outnumbered. And attorney means to turn words, y'all. You got to know an attorney or a lawyer. Hey, I'm going to say it like how one of my mentors told me, man. The damn lawyer, he do all the talking and you do all the time. Some people say the lawyer is the liar. Attorney means to turn words. So jurisdiction really means, let me tell you what jurisdiction means. People think that it means you have authority over a person or authority over a certain area. But jurisdiction can also mean language, right? So I want y'all to catch this. Jurisdiction, right? You ever heard of the word legalese? Legalese is basically the language that's being used in the courtroom, right? So, you know, only the members of that club understand the language, or at least they're using words that you may think the definition is different. You know, I'm gonna give y'all some more homework. You go out there and you research and find a Black's Law dictionary. A Black's Law dictionary will give you the definition of these words that's being used inside these venues, right? And then you also got to understand that language, you know what I'm saying, is big too. Like Latin is used a lot in court, right? In that whole world. You know, they would use Latin, they would use, you know, the English language anyway is just a borrowed language. It's taking words from different other languages and making one. And then if you know your true history, you understand that English is not the original language anyway that we spoke. You know what I'm saying? You know, yeah, if you know about the ancient history of language, you know that, I mean, not only were we speaking Arabic, you know, we was more like speaking Swahili. You know, there's a universal language that still exists today that we use that's more original. It's more of the origin of our language, man. You know, and then words, let me give you an example. words you may go define in a dictionary versus the word or the definition that you get out of thesaurus is a big difference too. Like for example, the word person, right? Now in school, we was led to believe that we was persons. Did you know that a person is not necessarily a human? Right? A person is a corporate entity. You know, it's an entity. A person, place, or thing, what they call a noun, never describe it. Right? So jurisdiction is not only dealing with authority over a region or area or a person, it's actually the language being used. So you'll hear words, you know, being used in these spaces that you might not understand. So, you know, as we dig into this, right? You know, as they say, a deep dive, you know, jurisprudence is really vital to know. You know, there's also a saying in law that ignorance of the law is no excuse. Right? So that means, hey, if you incompetent, then we got a place for you. Or we got somebody who can be your guardian. You know what I'm saying? If you don't know nothing about nationality, you need to look into that. Especially if you have been titled or labeled as a Negro, a black, a colored, an African American. You should understand that all of those titles are trademark commercial brand names, and that it is not your lineage, bloodline, pedigree. It is not a nationality. If I walk up on a person right now and be like, what's your nationality? And they say they a black man or they're African American, you do understand that's not a nationality, right? So that goes along with, you know, jurisprudence as well, because I'm going to tell you how I was taught. That there's 3 steps when it comes to court. And you know, like I say, we're going to tie all this back into massive incarceration because, for one, if people knew the law, they wouldn't trust attorneys, they wouldn't waive certain rights, they wouldn't be, you know, tricked or to incriminate themselves or testify against themselves. They will understand the process in court. And a lot of people won't be incarcerated off of a corrupted judicial system. But the way it's set up, most of this shit is done by your consent. Right? It's done by your consent. And it's also agreed upon by your silence. Your silence means acquiescence. So that means if you ain't say nothing, you ain't rebut it, it must be true. It must stand as law. And y'all know right here on the Smoke and Quote podcast talk radio show here on the TSQ network with your boy C.H.A.R.M, we all about the truth. We just want to generate the thought, put some truth out there, because the truth ain't popular. So we need the truth to get a little bit more popular, because the lies, hey, got everybody believing in it, man. Straight up. So if you don't learn nothing from this conversation, I want you to understand jurisprudence. I want you to understand that there's a treaty at the top, then there's a U.S. Constitution, then there's a state constitution. Now, these public officials within their state, they're enforcing those state laws onto the people. When they do that, it becomes a conflict of interest because the Constitution and these treaties and all this stuff is in place to protect the people. You know, you understand, like, before this Constitution was actually solidified and complete, they had to rewrite it like 2 or 3 times. Every time they came to the powers that be at that time, which was us, they denied it. Oh no, you got to redo that. You know, you got to redo that. I think it's what, ratified or something like that, right? But do your homework. Don't take everything I say. hey, don't take my word for it. Go do your own research. I'm just gonna show you the path. I'm gonna show you where the water at. I can't make you drink it. But I ain't scared to give you the truth. I can be blunt. I can be out of my ego and emotions totally. Get out my personal feelings about the truth and just push the truth. That's what it's time. And we also living in the times of revelation, so it's time for things to be revealed to us. You feel me? You know? And I'ma share it. I'ma share it. So jurisprudence, like they taught me, it was 3 steps in court. Status, jurisdiction, and adjudication. But what they try to do is, with the abuse of process, meaning they're skipping steps. You're supposed to have a due process of law. So when people going in these courtrooms and they being basically accused, right? Crimes are alleged, and they tell you you're supposed to be innocent to proven guilty. But what really happens is people are actually guilty to proven innocent, right? And let me tell you something else about a plea. They ask you to enter a plea and then turn around and ask you, have you been forced, threatened, or promised anything to enter this plea? And the same people who asking you this is the people that's forcing, threatening, or promising you something. I remember my last court I had to go to for some traffic tickets. And you know what they do, if you go in there, they automatically gonna try to make you the last person in court, and then they gonna pass you around like a hot potato, you know, depending on what's coming out your mouth. And it sounds like it's substantive law and stuff like that. They gonna pass you like a hot potato. Well, you go over here and talk to this person. You go over here and talk to that person. And then you know what I'm saying? Then they try to burn you out. And then they'll try you again. They want to start over. But I was speaking to a solicitor, right? I should call his ass out in the county and everything. But I can't really remember his name, but I know they was in the city of College Park, right? And this solicitor, you know, we you know, it always start off cool, and they be being, you know, trying to be polite and act like they there, you know, on behalf of you and got the best interest in mind and in their hearts for you. But that's cap. As soon as you start talking about the actual things that's supposed to occur, they get all belligerent. They start acting up, and you know, first of all, you know, they'll talk to you like they're your child, like you their child. You know what I'm saying? But I was telling this guy, you know, I feel like there's a abusive process, meaning due process is due. There's a process that's due to everybody out the gate as soon as you come into these spaces. You feel what I'm saying? So if most of our family members and loved ones and friends and family understood certain things when they came to court, there will be no opportunity for them to be adjudicated on. Because for one, this court ain't got the authority, this court ain't got the jurisdiction. It's just so many things that you can ask for, right? So many things that you're supposed to stand on and have as rights and enforce to protect yourself. And the lawyer, the good old boy lawyer, he can't do it. Because the court, the officer of the court, the state is his first priority. He can't do it. He'll lose his bar membership. He'll lose his license to practice law if he actually did what you needed him to do by law. Right? So they don't operate in law. They don't operate with law or lawful things. They operating with statutes, codes, ordinances, illegal and legal stuff. So when you know the difference, you start to realize who's the enemy. You start to realize the conflict. And you start to realize, well, hey, if I stay in this capacity, I may protect myself. You know what I'm saying? So jurisprudence and a corrupted judicial system, you know, and then, you know, I do stand by saying that it's corrupted, but it's also the incompetent people. It's also the people who don't know no better. So therefore, in contract law, if I get you to agree to, hey man, if you wear a yellow shirt on Tuesdays, you owe $5,000 fine. And if somebody agree to that, then that becomes law. That person agreed that if they wear a yellow shirt, now let me catch your ass on a Tuesday with a yellow shirt on, you owe me 5 racks. That's how contract law works. You agreed. And if you didn't agree, you should have rebutted it or you should have negotiated it. You can negotiate the terms and conditions, because if we get into one agreement and it don't work, in contract law, they call it a frustration of purpose. If that occurs, then guess what we got to do? Draw up a new contract to where both parties can agree and both parties are made whole and both parties are, protected. That's what a real contract is going to do. It ain't going to be one-sided. If it's one-sided, that's what you call a unilateral contract, right? Where it's one-sided, it only protects one individual. And a lot of these contracts that we dealing with, not just with court, y'all, but a lot of these contracts dealing with these corporations, dealing with everything, is one-sided. And it only benefits one individual. And that individual, 8 times, 9 times out of 10 ain't your ass unless you wrote the contract. That's why they say, he who writes the contract wins. He who writes the contract wins. Right? So, understanding that, we should read our contracts more. People get pieces of paper and contract that's relevant to their freedom, relevant to their financial outcome, that's associated with assets that they're acquiring, and we don't even read it. And you'll get so many documents at one time, like a package. It'll be like a sandwich, and we don't even read them. So when we understand in court, and court is a bank, yeah, you didn't know that. I'm gonna remind you, court is a bank. Ain't nothing going on in there but financial transactions, dealing with property and the owners of these property, of the properties. That's all going on in court. When they say all rise, the judge is approaching the bench. When you look in that courtroom, what do you see a bench? From your definition, from what you think a goddamn bench is, what do you see in this room that's considered to be a bench? When the judge sit down in his chair, do that look like a bench? Okay. If they say he's approaching the bench, y'all, they're speaking Latin. The word bench means bank. All right? The court has what you call the CRIS, which is CRIS, Court Registry Investment System. The court has what you call bonds. The court is dealing with CUSIPs. The courts is dealing with numbers. The courts is dealing with fines and charges. Anytime you hear the word charge, you should actually understand that a credit card is associated with this transaction. Anytime you hear the word charge. So, what does all this mean? Let's go back. The court is a bank. So, how do you handle yourself inside of a bank? Right? How do you handle yourself inside of a bank? You only go to a bank to make a deposit or a withdrawal. Basically, right? You're making a deposit or a withdrawal, whether you wire and transferring funds. The court is a bank. The bench means bank. When you understand trust, you understand that the people inside of the court, right? You're dealing with a clerk, right? Which is a notary, all right? You have a executor or executrix. You have a fiduciary trustee. You have a beneficiary. Now, when you understand the positions in the trust, you can understand the structure of a court. You look at a pyramid, it's 3 points. So let's put a executor, grantor, that type of thing at one point. Next point, you have a fiduciary trustee. At the next point, you have a beneficiary. Inside the court, you got the prosecutor, the judge, the clerk, the defendant, the attorney, all right? See, this lawyer is stepping in as your trustee. He get to speak for you. Because, you know, you remember now, if you got a lawyer representing you, you're deaf, dumb, blind, and mute. Remember that, right? He can only represent a corporation, state property, somebody who's incompetent, like a baby. Go look up the Baby Act. Y'all gotta know all these rules and laws is up under acts, man. Why? Because it's a stage play. You know, everything ain't what it look like. Everything that shine ain't gold. So you think you in court dealing with some type of crime or law issue, but you dealing with a banking transaction. You know what I'm saying? It's a stage play. All these federal laws and all these rules of engagement is under acts. You know, you got the Baby Act, the Banking Act, the Fair Debt Collecting Practices Act, the Truth in Lending Act, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, the Privacy Act. You did what I'm saying? They all up under acts because each one is a stage play, especially when you're dealing with a matrix, a fictional world, to where you're dealing with corpse, and you're dealing with dead bodies, and you're dealing with all capital letter appellations. So that's what's really going on. So you got to know it's a banking, so you got to approach it like it's commercial. You got to approach it like it's banking. Stop arguing. That's dishonorable. That's what your lawyer gonna do. He gonna argue. If you really had a lawyer to do what he really needed to do for you, it would be in a private capacity, a private administrative procedure, and he would basically lose his bar license to do it. So it's a conflict of interest out the gate. You outnumbered by the state. You did what I'm saying? That's why these laws, like the Constitution, is all in place. So, you know, everything would be regulated and governed for the protection of the people, and to assure that all of the people who are trusted, like public officials, judges, prosecutors, all of these people are actually doing their jobs the right way. Because not only do they represent the United States, they represent themselves in a capacity where they got duties that they can't breach under an oath, and they getting paid to do it. Right? You know how they always tell you, oh man, your taxes pay their salary and blah, 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 right? They're getting paid to do this. So if you're getting paid to do this, that's what they call a what? Let's spell this word. The word is EMOLUMENT. Spell it again. EMOLUMENT. Right? Now, emolument or emolument violation. See, I don't even know how to pronounce it. That type of violation is when a public official is being paid under contract, because all these people is under contract, right? So this is why I'm trying to show you how the court is a bank. And you also need to know a lot about notarial law. The notary is the strongest person in commerce. Why? We'll talk about that soon. But let's get back to this type of violation, this emolument violation, right? These people are getting paid because you got a contract with the state. So you paid to be a police officer. You're paid to be a prosecutor. You make a salary to be a judge and a clerk and an attorney. And all of these people represent the state, so the state got to be their first priority, no matter what they doing. It's supposed to be always on the behalf of the state. They represent the state. So who is the state, y'all? Who is the state? You know, you think about the state and you start thinking, okay, the state, Georgia State, or the state of Georgia, or Florida State, or the state of Florida, or Tennessee State, or the state of Tennessee, right? The state is actually, just like I broke down government to you, government means to control the mental. So you got to understand, state is actually your state of mind. Your state of mind So in each state that they call in a state, it's a region where they're saying that they got full mind control over the state of mind of these people in this region, and it's named state of Georgia. They mean that they pretty much trying to keep everybody on the same page on how they do everything from the agricultural industry, from everything to business and commerce and trade, from education. You know what I'm saying? Everybody pretty much got to be on the same mindset, and they do this through different channels of different things that they control as a government, from radio to TV to everything, man. They control your schools, they control your churches, they control everything. So even when people think that they're near the truth or they're holding on to the truth about certain things, it's been statutory, it's been represented, it's been, washed up a certain way to where it could keep you up under a certain state, within a certain state. Notice in a state, the people do things a certain way. They got a different way of talking a little bit. They sound a little different than you. They're in a different state. This is how they kept control over the population. It's all about population control and control of the resources, the natural resources in the land. That's all it's about. It really ain't even no money for real. You know what I'm saying? It's really just control. But as you understand your interaction with these corporations, these banks, these courts, any of these entities that affects your life directly, you deserve some type of outlet to salvation or something, some type of protection. You deserve it. But if you never knew, then, it'd have to be told to you. And then, they play the game is not to be told, it's to be sold. But, I don't know how I felt about that. I think that, it's things that I know that people told me that I didn't know that. If they didn't want to told me, I wouldn't have never known. Then there's some things that you have to make up in your mind and in your heart and get the conviction that you really want it, and you go out there and seek it, and you go get that information. You know what I'm saying? You gotta want it. But basically, this emolument violation is where these public officials are getting paid, bro. So you're supposed to ask questions to assure no dirty hands is in the situation when it comes to you dealing with, these type of accusations and allegations. You want to assure that the judge, the prosecutor, none of these people that's here is in conspiracy to support such conduct from an honorable court and make sure there is no abuse of process and stuff like that. But once we understand the common law of things and we understand that things are supposed to be done the right way, but it's not. If you call it out, it's kind of like you arguing. So I want to put that out there. And that might be the most important part to understand on being honorable and being dishonorable. If you know it's a banking type of situation or it's a commercial issue, a commercial dispute, why would you come in there arguing or talking about the procedure? Why would you be talking about the actual procedure of how things are being done? Because things are being done according to how these group of people do it, right? And then you want to try to tell them that they're not doing it right, but they got a trend of doing things a certain way. Well, this is how they do things, right? This is how they do things. But you're telling them they're on rules, which could be true. Like, let's say you all the way right. They're not even following their own rules, and you call them out on there. Regardless, it's going to be an argument, right? So my take on it, after you have to learn and engage into information until you become the information yourself. So you have to go these, this is why we have to have dialogue like we've been having, because you actually have to learn this stuff and start to train your mindset. But then after you start to understand the infrastructure and all of these things, you choose your battle wisely and you take the path of least resistance, right? So if it's a banking issue, I'm gonna come in handling it like a bank issue.
You ain't got more sauce than me. You ain't got
Well, how do you do that?
You ain't got more sauce
Right?
than me. Bitch, you ain't got no sauce.
Well,
Oh, you ain't got no sauce.
if the court is a bank
You ain't got no sauce.
and there's a alleged fine or charge, you know, you got to say a charge is affiliated with a credit card, right? So that means they're charging something. Something is being charged. That's why these codes have a name and then they have a charge. There's an amount, a fine, a penal sum value that they have connected to this so-called charge. Why? Because they want to be able to pull the value off of your bond. This is finance, people. This is banking. That's what it is. It's banking. So the secret is no secret. It's just there's an assumption and a presumption that you're already a expert at what you do because you have a social, you have an ID, you have a bank account, you have a job, getting negotiable instruments issued to you. You're getting checks, you're getting payments, you're purchasing things from stores, you own an automobile and a home, and all of these things are so commercial that for anybody to able to manage them or acquire this type of stuff must be an expert in commerce. So the assumption and presumption of these courts and these corporations, they assume that you're an expert. But you ain't know it was that type of game. You wasn't even fully educated on this stuff, so you're basically falling into order by default. You know, you slip and fall into a contract every day. Every person got at least, I don't know, you name it. How many contracts are you in? Because we got to handle this stuff like it's commercial because the court is a bank. So how many contracts, are you in right now? You got a social, you got a birth certificate. Out the gate, you're in a contract with the state. Whether mama and dad knew they were doing that at your birth or not, there was a whole commercial transaction. The same thing that happens when the ships come to the borders of our country with inventory and a manifest or a bill of lading, right? When you listen to the words that's used in Alberton Maritime, when it's dealing with a ship bringing in goods from different countries to us, like how the cars get here, how all of the goods, computers, you name it, all this stuff come in on the ship, right? So go research all of the names, like the titles and wordplay or the terminology that they use inside their industry, right? When it's dealing with the manifest and the birth and the canal, and listen to these words and then go to the hospital and listen to the terminology that the doctors or the physicians use when it comes to a woman giving birth. They're the same. It's the same terminology. It's the same terminology. So you got to understand that all of this stuff is so commercial that you got to keep a commercial mindset and not get personal about no business. Because then you're going to get in your feelings, then you're going to get dishonorable, and then you're going to, actually find yourself in a space to where you're going to have to answer to something that didn't apply to you.